Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stephen Marks. I am the Township Manager. This public hearing is being conducted pursuant to New Jersey Statute 40:69A-96, which states, "The municipal budget shall be prepared by the municipal manager. During the month of November in each year, the municipal manager shall require all department heads to submit requests for appropriations for the ensuing budget year and to appear at a public hearing which shall be held during that month on various requests." So this afternoon, we are considering several different departments. We are joined by Montclair Mayor Renee Baskerville, Montclair Councilor Eric D'Amato, Montclair Deputy Township Manager Brian Scantlebury, and Department of Community Services Director Austin Ashley. Austin is up first. Welcome, Austin. Please proceed.
All right, thank you very much. We prepared three different scenarios for the budget this year as directed.
So actually, before you start on the Department of Community Services, a counselor at the last council meeting had asked for a table of organization. If you go to the previous slide, this is by business unit. This will be made available through the presentations, and it just shows each business unit in relation to the mayor and council, how the mayor and council are the governing body for the town, and their authority emanates down through basically the chain of command. Next.
Okay, so here you can see our three different scenarios. We have a normal, which would be a standard year without adverse conditions. A frozen, which would be frozen from last year. So basically the same. The only thing that increased in our scenario would be the contractual wages that need to go up. And then a lean, which would be a 5% reduction. Now, if you can see from the slide here, I have the lean and the frozen at the same amount because we were able to work out of our operating expenses enough to reduce our budget by 5% without affecting those salary lines. In the normal, you do see an increase, and that reflects the potential for new hires. We're looking for new hires at a couple of different divisions. Currently, at our employment rate, we are meeting the minimum, but not without the possibility of an injury or vacation time significantly impacting operations. So under normal circumstances, we'd be asking for more money for salary and wages, knowing that that's probably going to be a stretch for this year. But at least the request is out there, and you can see what ideally we'd like to have for our department. As I just mentioned, for the operating expenses, you can see on the lean slide there, it's $8.3 million roughly. And that's a $600,000 plus reduction from last year. And that we were able to accomplish by moving a couple of things around. Last year we had some significant purchases in the operating budget, which we believe can be more effectively managed and budgeted out of the capital ordinance. So that along with getting closer to the bare minimum on different line items, such as mechanical parts. We have a history. We know roughly where we're going to be with mechanical parts. It's tough to say. We want to have a little bit of a cushion in there, but we were able to reduce that line and subsequent other lines by percentages, and we feel that those would not drastically impact our operating. As far as the increase for the normal, that is what we project would be a normal increase for our department. Those are I don't like to call them a wish list because it's not that they're not wants, they are needs. But we are cognizant and we're aware of the fact that you can't have everything at one time. So part of our budgeting process is sitting down with each individual unit within the Department of Community Services and going through what they identify as needs, because there are 10 subcategories in our department.
Can you, for those at home and those who don't know, can you describe the various business units within your department?
Sure. So on the table of organization, you can see building maintenance, the central garage. The central garage is where all of the mechanical work takes place. That's where our diesel vehicles are worked on, tires are changed, oil changes, routine maintenance, and some major repairs. There are items that we can't repair, such as transmissions or major body work that needs to be outsourced. So some of that is reflected into the operating budget. But for the most part, our mechanic shop is very well staffed. We have highly experienced, very good mechanics that do work wonders with our equipment. And I have to say, since being here and with this council, the council has done a tremendous job of providing us with the equipment that we need, which has lessened the burden on the mechanical shop. Engineering is another division from our community service. Currently, we have Negley Engineering is our in-house engineer, and what that means is they're there 3 days a week physically in the office. So we have engineering staff that's readily available to us, and they handle the day-to-day engineering needs. That's questions that might come up, routine projects that we might put together, and questions from any other departments or the council and staff. For parks maintenance, we have a staff of 6 that are currently maintaining the parks, which is supplemented by an outside contractor. Ideally, I would not like to have the outside contractor. I would like to have that in-house, and that does a variety of things for us. It's frankly, they're more accountable to us, and they also give us more resources to deploy at other times of the year, such as snow removal, or even we're painting the 219 at our headquarters, and we're utilizing park staff. So that's something that has been done in the past that we'd like to bring back to get the offices maintained in-house, do the work that we can, and having that extra staff, I don't even want to call it extra, having that staff would make that more practical.
The contract for the outside vendor or contractor, is that on a calendar year basis, or when does that run? And are you proposing to eliminate that contract for 2026?
I'm not proposing to eliminate it for 2026 because I do not have the staff to take over that aspect of the, it's the large tracts of land that need mowing. That is really what we have struggled with in the past. We're doing a couple things to mitigate those. Like as I mentioned, the mechanics in the past, they got an older piece of equipment that has a very large cutting surface up and running again. We think that will help, but we don't want to reduce services without knowing that we can fully take over that task.
Okay.
But that is on a calendar basis. Refuse collection, we have in-house refuse and recycling collection, and that is a very large component of our operation. And frankly, it is a very valuable thing for the township to have retained. I know from my experience in other towns that there could be a slight decrease in cost for the initial few years that you switch over to private, but that gets blown away very quickly when they know that you don't have the resources to provide your own in-house service. So I believe that's a significant cost savings for the township. Plus, the level of service, I believe, is better. Shade tree department, we currently have 3 employees in our shade tree department, and that is, quite frankly, is not enough. The amount of work that we do in that department, and they're, again, very skilled, highly dedicated workers, there needs to be more employees there. It is dangerous work, and with that, and there's a minimum requirement that you have to have for putting out a tree crew. And with one person either being injured or, again, on leave, that significantly reduces our capability to effectively manage our community forests. And that's what it is. It is a community for. So it's our responsibility to make sure that those trees are healthy. Again, that is supplemented by an outside contractor, something that I don't think we'll ever be fully able to avoid because of the nature of trees. There's just some of them are just too big for us to handle. But having the appropriate staff in that department, I think, could greatly reduce our reliance on those outside contractors.
Is there any ability to cross-train between divisions or business units?
Yes, there is, and we do. So one of the big things that we did was for the chainsaw safety. All right, so when we have an event such as Superstorm Sandy or those microbursts that we had a couple of years ago, it's really an all-hands-on-deck kind of an event. So with that, there is the requirement for everyone to be operating safely. As our philosophy or motto is basically, is everyone goes home alive and with all their digits intact.
That's a good motto.
Yeah.
No accidents today.
No accidents, exactly. But that requires training. So that's part of the interdisciplinary training that we have. And it's not uncommon for the refuse and recycling to need to borrow from different departments in order to staff all of the trucks that need to go out for a day, or vice versa. Again, for snow removal, we will utilize as many employees as we need, as much equipment as we can put out in order to make sure the streets are safe and passable. Another big one is storm sewer. Currently, we have 2 employees in storm sewer. And again, that's not really enough. And they're being helped out with the street department. And what they do is they make sure that the storm sewers are inspected annually, that they are properly maintained, that they are cleaned out, that the machinery that maintains those catch basins is in good operating order. That's really one of those lesser seen but highly impactful divisions. There are more and more requirements from the state that put more pressure on them, but really the highest impact is the impact on surface flooding. We have kind of combined those two, shade tree and streets, storm sewer and streets, because they do touch on similar activities. If you take, for example, now leaf collection, that has a huge impact on the surface flooding. We're expecting a little bit of rain tomorrow. It looks like about an inch of rain. Anything over an inch an hour keeps me up at night, because that's when you get that significant surface flooding. And making sure that those storm drains are cleared is a vital part of that. It's not uncommon for us to have, you might see them on weekends for the more difficult catch basins, but they will physically be repairing the catch basins in the streets. So again, highly skilled employees.
Does street sweeping fall under roads or storm sewers, or
That's under the street department.
Okay.
We have one, currently we have one full-time street sweeper. Ideally, I would like to have 3. That's just for a matter of getting, the bare minimum requirement from the state is every street needs to be swept every year. But that practically is not a practical solution. It requires much more than that. But again, the street sweeper we do have is highly skilled and does a wonderful job. Going into the street department itself, the street department's responsibility is for the actual street. So that you're thinking potholes, you're thinking the road paving, the general tasks for, it's kind of like the catch-all department.
snow plowing?
Snow plowing, major aspect of it. And they coordinate with the other departments such as traffic in a whole town approach. Now for snow plowing in general, we have our main roads are always a focus, but we try to get the town cleared within 4 hours of the snow stopping. So it should be passable and the road should be salted under that time frame. And then traffic and signals. Also one of those departments that you're not really aware of until there's a problem. So they're responsible for maintaining the traffic lights that we own, the street signs that we maintain, and the delineators that have become out, and the striping reprogram.
Are the delineators deployed by inside staff or outside contractors?
We deploy those in-house.
Okay.
Same with the RRFBs, the rectangular rapid flashing
Beacons.
Those are also installed in-house, which is a significant savings.
That is a significant savings.
Yep. So those are our departments. And then the office staff. The office staff located at 219. The people, when you pick up the phone, have a complaint or a comment, a compliment, they're the ones that take that and route that to the appropriate foreman to be resolved. And also highly skilled, excellent employees.
Okay, and if you could describe your capital needs or your projected capital ask?
Sure. So for this year, we were looking to keep it the same for $3 million for the road safety program. So that includes the continuation of the school safety striping. So if you've seen around Darien School, that's the striping with the increased sight lines for the crosswalks, the increased signage for the road itself, the painted areas saying, school zone, slow, any number of those things. Also, to that capital project will also include more delineators for those areas. We've had success with them. We've tried out different methods of deployment, whether it's bolted to the ground or freestanding. What we found the most success with is a course of 3, depending on how wide the road is, with the closest to the curb being movable. And that's important because of the street cleaning. If we can't get into the side of the road to clean those streets, that's when we have problems with flooding and surface flooding and just general litter. As far as facility repair, we have $1.6 million in for facility repairs. That's for things such as the roof here, the roof at the animal shelter. There's windows. There's just a lot of capital improvements that are in that. The largest item is a combination of dredging and dam work. That's for Yanakaw Brook Dam and for the Edgemont dredging. That number is fungible. We don't really have that set in stone. That's going to require some more study. We do believe it's going to be expensive. It's going to require the lowering of both of those waterways and ultimately the trucking and transportation of the material that needs to come out of there. What's different about this was done to Edgemont Pond, I believe 12 years ago or thereabouts. What's different about this time is that project included some work on the walls of the pond itself. I don't anticipate that needing to be done. However, once we get into the project, we don't really know the depth of how far we need to go or the condition underneath the water. Same for the dam. The dam, we believe, can get done for about $1.5 million, but that still needs some further study. But at Yanakaw Brook Pond needs to be dredged as well. It's almost...
That's been going back 7-8 years.
Yeah.
Yanakaw is.
Yeah, that Yanakaw has been a project that's been on the shelf for a while, but that needs to come to fruition. For heavy-duty trucks, for $1.5 million, this is the continuation of our program for purchasing of new garbage trucks and recycling trucks. What we've identified with these vehicles is not only the age of the vehicles is a continuing problem, the fact that they did not have any tippers. So we were identified that as a major cause of the workers' compensation claims is back lifting injuries. So we believe with the addition of tippers for 3 new garbage trucks, this would be the second year in a row for 3 garbage trucks, and that would put us on course to replace those trucks, and we should ramp down from there, right? So it won't be 3 trucks every year. It'll ramp down to 1 a year, and that will be at the right rate of replacement. But that would also give us the ability to use the tippers, significantly decreasing lifting injuries and making for a more efficient process for refuse and recycling collection. Also with those cans, so the problem we're seeing more and more is that these cans are already out in the town, which, although great for reducing litter and keeping animals out of the cans, they are significantly heavier than the traditional trash cans. And it makes it difficult for our employees to dump them. So what they're ending up doing is they're reaching into the cans and pulling the bags out. Now, this can obviously lead to puncture wounds through, there's sharps in the garbage can. We don't know what's in there. Animals have, flown out. It's not an ideal situation. So there's 2 schools of thought on how to approach that. We could enforce that into compliance, say, well, you can't use those cans anymore. You have to go back to this. But realistically, I think that's a losing battle. And I think the much more appropriate way is just to accept the fact that these are there, see their advantages, and use that to our advantage. Well, then the last item is for the tree management. This goes back to our earlier discussion about the shade tree department. The tree management includes items such as removals and pruning, but also for planting. So for the last, this year and probably for next year, we've been focusing mainly on pruning because of the trees had not been pruned substantially in a long time. You could take a look at Nishawane. We looked at that park in particular to get the trees trimmed and the branches elevated. So in a park, ideally, if you're looking from Harrison, you should be able to see into the park. And that, what was happening was we were getting what I like to call hedgerows around the trees itself. Some of it had to do with the fact that we're using an outside contractor to cut, and they go further and further away from the tree, and you get these bushes around the base of the tree. Some of that was just the trees hadn't been trimmed. You can still see that there's work that needs to be done. Today I was at Nishawane near the playground, and I could immediately tell that there were branches that were too low. They need to be trimmed up. But that, again, that's a question of where do you deploy your resources. And mainly at this point, our shade tree department is focused on emergencies, hazardous trees, and they didn't have the bandwidth to do that significant pruning. So that $500,000 will be for pruning, removals, and our annual planting, which we are looking to increase for the annual planting to about 100,000 for next year, or 150. And that all depends, and of course, on which budget we go with. The lean will be a little bit less than that. We took 5% off of these capital requests as well.
Are there any questions for Director Ashley? None?
No,
Why is tree management in the capital budget?
Because it can be in the capital budget, is the shortest answer, because that has a useful life of over 5 years, so we can finance that out.
So we don't, just for the record, the question was, why is tree management in the capital budget? So the capital budget is for any machinery or equipment that has a useful life of 5 years or more. The town does not spend money for salary and wages out of the capital budget. So it's if we were acquiring a truck, or I wouldn't recommend acquiring a chainsaw through the capital budget, but usually it's larger pieces of equipment or machinery.
Yeah.
And then related to tree management, I was struck. You had told me that at one point we had 2 or 3 or 3 members of the shade tree team out at the same time. Did you just say that you needed to have 4 people when you are doing an operation? for shade trees?
No, ideally 3 for any crew, a crew of 3. Ideally, we'd like to have 2 crews in ideal world, recognizing that that's not,
But you have three employees?
yes.
Okay. So, obviously you're working on getting those injuries down, but it's not like with the tippers where it's still, there's not some big change in how they're doing their business to cut down those potential work outages. So we're just dealing with that level of slowdowns. And if you have only 2 people, can you send a crew out with 2?
It depends on what they're doing.
Yeah.
They can't be, no takedowns or anything like that. But pruning can be done. Again, you want to have, you want to have the person who's in the tree, you want to have the person spotting that person, and ideally someone looking for traffic.
One more thing about that is, do we have adequate equipment to do high canopy trimming?
Our tree truck, I believe, maxes out at 75 feet. So that's no. I mean, there's trees that are taller than that. So in any case, we're going to be, for certain highly hazardous trees, excessively tall trees, or trees near wires, we most likely would have
A
to
contractor. Okay.
contract that out.
Now, on the tippers, so in sanitation, you are firmly of the belief that any outsourcing of sanitation is a bad idea just because of what you said. Okay.
100%.
Now, if we move to tipping everything using the tippers, do the trash receptacles at people's houses need to be upgraded to that, or can the tipper use any receptacle that people have?
So the way we have them configured, you would still be able to use the, how would you say it? Any kind of can, right?
Okay.
Ideally, we would look to have uniformed cans throughout the town. That's something that we would like to look at for something further down the
Okay.
road. That's also a significant cost. You're looking at $65 a can. However, there's certain advantages that come with that you can track when the cans were tipped. They have a barcode in there, and the tipper reads it. So one of a common complaint that we get is, you never came by, you never took my trash.
Right.
Well, yes, we did. We could be able to tell whether or not the can was picked up or not. It won't do anything for late putouts, but that is another advantage.
And then just for people at home, the frozen column in all of these presentations is this year's actual. Is that correct?
The frozen is the spending levels at 2025 levels. So the sub-accounts could change depending upon the needs of the department, but the total amount under the frozen is the same as 2025. The normal, quote-unquote, normal operations is if the department was doing everything that it is required of or anticipated or is supposed to be doing. And then the lean is a 5% reduction. The lean column is a 5% reduction from 2025 spending levels.
And then the last one for DCS is that your normal salary and wages line for 2026, that's ahead, that 15% growth or whatever it is more is 20 some odd percent. That's head count, correct?
For the normal,
Yeah.
correct. That would be adding.
Okay. Thanks.
Yep.
Oh,
Sure.
Thank you. Just in terms of moving towards getting the staff that you mentioned that you feel would be very helpful, like with the parks and that type of thing, is there movement towards trying to do that? I heard you say that you feel that we would probably do better if we did not have to have an outside group coming in. So with the parks, with the shade tree, and I guess the other one was the storm or sewer,
Mm-hmm.
right? Is there movement this year and to try to adjust to make that happen?
Well, we'd love to. It wholly depends on the amount we can practically raise in the budget. So there are fiscal constraints that we're aware of. But again, that would depend on how much we are able to get in funding.
But that's not like here where you have salary and wages or anything like that.
Well, that in the salary wages on the normal, that is a significant increase. So,
So that would
that would take care of it.
The normal list includes your ideal where
Yes.
we should be.
Yes.
Okay, all
Yes.
right. Good. No, thank you.
Thank you.
Just one more question, Austin.
Sure.
Are you still dealing with supply chain issues? And if so, how does that impact the budget or not?
Well, it has increased prices. So what we've found now, we were at the league last week, I guess it was. We were speaking with a lot of vendors. The lead times have decreased, or so they have claimed. We are still experiencing long lead times, but the highest impact is just the significant increase in costs. That's not been unexpected, but it is just the reality that we're dealing with. But so a product is coming in faster, which is a plus.
It just costs more.
It just costs more.
Okay, are there any other questions? Director Ashley, thank you very much.
Thank you
Appreciate your
very much.
presentation.
Thank you.
Next up. Chief, Deputy Chief, Lieutenant, welcome. The other way. The other way. Very good. Whenever you're ready.
Okay. Well, joining me today is Deputy Chief Will Young and Lieutenant Dean Berardi. The total operating and capital budget requests, including salary and wages of a staff of 113 sworn officers, is $16,086,520. I just want to point out one thing. This does not include the salary and wages for dispatchers, crossing guards, and civilian staff, which in the past has been budgeted by the CFO. It's something we need to look at. We will definitely work with the CFO, but in the past, that we've never seen those salary and wages. We've just budgeted the sworn officers. The 2026 operating budget request is $889,550, reflecting an increase from the 2025 operating cost of $730,350. The increase is primarily due to the transition of the fleet management and vehicle expenses from the capital budget to the operating budget. And then some of the larger requests in the operating budget, which you don't see up there, but I'll just point them out, are $100,000 for building maintenance, $145,000 for the electronic maintenance, $80,000 for software license, and $215,000 for the enterprise fleet management vehicle lease. The capital budget request for 2026 is $141,000, a decrease from 2025's total of $760,000. The reduction reflects the fact that the officers' body-worn cameras will be purchased using capital funds appropriated from prior years. The total budget request with a 5% reduction will be $15,282,200. This level of funding will require a reduction of 13 officers. We looked at the budget as tight as we could, and the only way we can get down to 5% would be a reduction of personnel. And we look forward to discussing anything further with you now.
So there were three line items, one for the standard operating budget, one for frozen at 2025 levels, and then one was a 5% reduction. So which column are we looking at on this,
So
on the screen?
if we're just going to talk about our, I hate calling our wants, but if we put the two changes that are going to really affect the budget would be the $889,550, because that expense would add the lease manager from enterprise, which would increase the operating budget. And 141,000 would come down from last year based on the fact that the body worn cameras will be taking the money from prior funds. So those were the two. We tried looking at any other way, but because those two things are still a moving target at the moment, we haven't fully secured them. It's hard to come up with three scenarios. So we came up with the two, and that's what we approached.
So what does 113 sworn officers look like? How are they divided into divisions, bureaus, business units? How does that function?
Sure. So there's 32 supervisors if you count myself and Deputy Chief Young. There's 13 detectives if you count the SRO in the school. The rest are broken down in patrolmen. Some of the patrolmen are in the community service unit. Some are in support service. The remainder are in the patrol division or in the academy right now. We have 7 right now.
And patrol function, how is that different than detectives or other operating units?
Yeah, we have the patrol division. Obviously, is the heart of the department, and they respond to the calls throughout the day, and they work on the modified pitman schedule. The detectives work a 5 and 2 schedule. They get called in to work cases, but we have other officers on 5 and 2 schedule, like the community service unit, as well as Lieutenant Berardi's office, support services. And we have an ID bureau that also supplements the detective bureau that, aside from doing detective work, they're doing a lot of the processing of crime scenes, but they're also doing the gun permits, the sex offender registrations, and all the various permits that come through the department. So we can get in more detail than what everybody does, but that's kind of how the functions work.
And overtime, can you describe the overtime trends and where are we trending in terms of overtime?
We've been around $1 million for the last few years. Now this year, we put in for $1 million, anticipating it will come down from that because we're starting off the year with full staff. However, just make note, full staff on paper, some of those officers won't make it out. They're coming out of the academy, but won't be counted towards the staffing for another few months as they go through their training. And then we also anticipate a couple of retires that are going to come up, as well as other issues that come up like military leave and family leave. So we never really operate at full staff.
So with 7 officers graduating the academy, will that affect overtime, and that you have younger officers coming on just out of the academy at, say, step 1 in the salary scale?
Correct. They will be they're graduating the academy December 10th, and right now they're at the academy step. They'll be going to step 1, which I believe is $53,000. So that'll be those 7 officers. They'll go immediately into the field training program for anywhere from 12 weeks to a few weeks extra if it needs to be extended. Then once they get supplemented into patrol, that's when we could see the impact of overtime coming down to fill the holes that we have right now.
And how about the other operating expenses? What constitutes the operating expenses?
The biggest operating expense, it's always the electronic maintenance, the software licenses. Right now, we have the lease agreement we're trying to get with Enterprise, but we see that as a gain for the town. In the past, I believe we budgeted for anywhere from 5 to 6 cars and spent about $500,000 a year to outfit them. This cost for this year would be $215. I believe we get about 10 to 12 cars. 12 cars. So that would be one of the major expenses in the operating.
Just one question, Chief. We have here that you're going to be laying off 13 on
If
patrol.
we're talking about a 5% reduction, there's no other way to come up with that number without a layoff of 13 officers.
My concern is that the work still has to be done. So will that be done in overtime?
There would
or-
be done in overtime and a loss of services. We probably have to cut from the community service unit. We'd have to cut from the traffic bureau and make sure that patrol is supplemented properly. But there would be definitely a cut of services if we had to lay off officers, yes.
Okay.
So for those of you listening at home, the New Jersey State Health Benefits Plan had released, it was the New Jersey Division of Department of the Treasury, had released the insurance premiums for public employees who were in the state health benefits plan. So it was a 36.5% increase in employee health premiums from 2025 to 2026. The Township of Montclair spends approximately $10 million on employee health benefits. That 36.5% increase translates into an approximate $4 million increase in healthcare costs for employees for 2026. So I've asked each of the department heads to come up with 3 different budget scenarios. One, freezing the salary and wage and operating expense levels at 2025 levels total. One as a quote-unquote normal operating budget, unconstrained. And then the third would be reducing the respective municipal department budgets by 5%. So what the chief just said was, if the police department were to reduce their budget by 5%, it would translate into basically a reduction in force of approximately 13 officers. Are there any questions?
Hi, thanks for, good to see you. So echoing what the manager asked, just what is the actual for 2025? Is it 14 to, like, which is the number that corresponds to what DCS offered?
I'm sorry, what's your question?
My question is, like, what is wages and salary, which is obviously the 95% of what we're talking about.
Now, this is what,
This is the 2026 budget, so the wages and salary for 2026 are the top number.
I understand that. I'm asking what is the total salary and wages for 2025?
it's the same.
It's
It was the same because we're operating at 113 officers now. The PBA hasn't gotten a contract yet, so the number's still the same.
So it is this year, I think the manager is,
So according to the 2025 budget, salary and wages for the police department is approximately $17,119,910.50. And then the other expenses are $635,350. It should be noted, it is my understanding that dispatch and the crossing
And
guards are
civilians.
charged to the police department. So those are on paper. I think there's approximately
That's correct.
30.
16 dispatchers, there's 7 civilian staff, and 40 crossing guards.
Okay, so I mean, those business units, the crossing guards and the dispatch are significant. So I believe that's baked into the overall police department.
that's
salary and wage
17
line.
million that you just said
Yes.
includes dispatch
Right.
and crossing guards,
That's-
which is not here.
Yeah, we've never seen that number. We don't budget, we've always budgeted for the sworn officers. Maja routed the.
I understand,
civilians.
Yeah,
It's a little
just,
confusing when we didn't see
right,
it.
right, just to allow people and the manager to do apples and apples.
Mhm.
So when you say that these numbers would imply 13,
Mhm.
reduction of 13, in patrol,
Mhm.
is that different from when you say patrol,
Well,
does that not include the CSU or?
No, it doesn't include CSU. They're patrolmen, but they're not in patrol responding to calls. They're doing the Arrive program, they're doing the community policing events. The patrolmen are the ones in patrol cars responding to the calls.
But the 13,
Mhm. They're, right now, if we laid off 13, they'd be the guys at the bottom. So you'd probably have to lay off this, because seniority in the contract, you have to lay off the 7 that are in the academy, so they wouldn't make it to patrol, plus another 6 through seniority, which would be the most recent hires over the last
so
year.
we'd be laying off people in patrol and not in the CSU.
You'd be laying off, well, you'd be laying off the guys at the bottom, so wherever they are right now. Right now, by seniority.
Okay, so it is by seniority that people go into the CSU, by rule,
Yes and
as a
no.
general.
Yes and no. They're not the most senior people, it's just the
But they
best
are more
qualified
senior
people.
than
Than the bottom people, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I say this for the obvious reason
yeah.
that my constituents
Mhm.
are more interested in patrol officers than pizza with a cop. They like pizza with a cop, don't get me
Right.
wrong, everybody likes
Well,
pizza.
this would affect
But-
patrol tremendously, because those 13 are slated to go into patrol, because they're the youngest guys, they would be
They
in
have to be
patrol.
the youngest guys.
And those are the lowest salaries, so you need 13 to make up the 5%.
Understood. And now you did mention the number of supervisory roles.
32 count myself and Deputy Chief Young.
32 out of 113.
Correct, yes.
Okay. All right, thanks. Mayor?
All right, Chief, thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve.
Deputy Chief, Lieutenant, thank you.
Good afternoon, Manager.
You may want to skip ahead. The other way. Yep.
So my name is Emmanuel Germano. I'm the Superintendent of Parking for the Township of Montclair. Right now, the parking utility is on track to bring in around $4.5 million of revenue into the township. We are self-sustained,
Liquidated?
liquidated. We have 29 surface lots, 4 parking decks. We currently have 15 employees, 9 PEOs, 2 maintenance workers, 1 person who's repairing meters and collecting the meters, and 3 administrative employees, including myself. We introduced in 2024 LPR technology into 2 vehicles. We now have 4 vehicles that are using LPR technology.
And what is LPR?
Sorry, LPR, license plate recognition. It's cameras that are mounted on the vehicles that are actually reading the license plates of vehicles for permitting purposes. So we got rid of the hang tags and we got rid of the problems where, you know, my hang tag fell off, my hang tag fell on the floor. We got rid of all those issues, and also the people duplicating hang tags using PDF editors. So that seems to have resolved that issue. When we received the LPRs, we also took over overnight enforcement for the police department. The police department was doing a great job, but they were actually doing enforcement on a complaint-driven basis because they're busy doing other things. And as the police chief just noted, they have limited, staff. So do we, but we try to do the best we can, and we've since then identified certain points of town that actually required more overnight street parking, and since then we've actually changed some of the ordinances and added additional streets. Our numbers up there are correct. What we're asking for is actually, as far as the salary goes, we have contracts in place that we can't get rid of any. We didn't make any changes on our salary. So what I did is I changed the operating expenses to make up for the difference. And also, in doing that, I noticed that there was a couple of line items in there that I was actually able to decrease. So our numbers actually went down for 2026 as far as operating expenses. So your frozen is actually higher than our 2026 request. That being said, our capital projects are actually much higher. They're almost double. And that's because we were looking to, at some of our decks, the Fullerton deck, the Bay Street deck, the Crescent deck need a little work on them. That work that needs to be done is going to be costly. And it's something that we really need to do because it's part of our infrastructure. And if we don't take care of it now, it's going to be very, very expensive in the long run. So that's something we really, really should consider. We also were requesting, if at all possible, for an additional full-time parking enforcement officer. I think that would help us both with enforcement, as far as, because right now there's certain times of the day that we have 1 enforcement, sometimes only 2 enforcement officers doing their job.
For 6 square miles.
For 6 square miles for the entire town. So sometimes, people call up and I get this complaint all the time. I called you guys came over, and by the time somebody got there, luckily their driveway was clear already, so, they were able to get out. But, what took you so long? Well, what took us so long is that, if you're in Upper Montclair and somebody calls on South End, or vice versa, that's a problem. It takes us a little while to get down there. As far as the capital improvements, I already touched on the refurbishment of the decks. The other thing that we would really consider, like for the governing body to consider and for the township to consider, is installing some more EV chargers. Now that we in the town itself, we have 4 electric vehicles currently, fully electric, and right now we are all using the same chargers, which is great, but at the same time, it's also not fair to people that need to charge their vehicles because sometimes we're taking up some of that space, some of those spaces, and charging the township vehicles.
The parking utility vehicles are electric?
We have 2 parking utility vehicles that are electric right now for the parking utility. The police department has one, and the health department has another. That's the 4 that we have in town. The other part of the capital budget we would like to do is we would like to request 1 more maintenance vehicle, because right now we're using one very old 2005 Ford Ranger. That I would like to probably get a newer vehicle for that, and more pay stations for the streets. I think the single parking meter scenario that the town implemented a while back works. However, I think the pay station works a lot better, especially now with the LPR, license plate recognition technology. Because right now we have parking enforcement officers that are actually walking the streets to verify that the meters are paid. Because the company that we use for parking enforcement, single space meters, does not interface with our parking enforcement app. So those meters still have to be checked individually. If we get the pay stations, those pay stations do interface with our license plate recognition. So that way you can just drive down the street and detect the people that have not paid, and address it accordingly. I think that's about all I have.
Can I jump in? Oh, sure. Manny, if you recall, we had a conversation about identifying streets that would be most conducive to kiosks.
Yes.
How are we doing with that?
We've identified certain streets, Bloomfield Avenue being the main one, also Valley Road and Upper Montclair being another. Any of the busiest streets, I believe the kiosk will work the best, because it'll force a turnaround that we currently in certain areas don't have.
The longer blocks would be 3 or 2?
Longer blocks would possibly be 2. So it would be 2 in each block. We'd divide the block into 3 sections, and basically at the lines where the 2/3 would meet is where we would put the pay stations. That was our plan. And then some of the smaller streets, we were thinking about possibly just putting one on one side in the middle of the block and another one on the other side in the middle of the block. Correct, yes. There was one other thing that I forgot to touch on, which is the paving. We did in 2024, we did pave 4 lots. We were on schedule to pave 2 more lots this year and pave the street that runs between South Park and South Fullerton. Unfortunately, our paver, as everybody knows, has other issue that couldn't make it back in time. So I don't believe we're going to have that done. So I think it's going to have to be postponed until next year, those 2 lots in that street. So. Any questions?
Hi, thanks so much.
No problem.
Does your capital budget for next year include the Montclair Heights lot?
So the Montclair Heights lot was scheduled to be done this year.
That's one of the 2. Okay.
That was one of the 2. However, because of funding, because I only have a certain amount of money left for paving this year, because of the funding and because we determined that the street between South Fullerton and South Park was more important than the Heights, only because and I'm not saying it's more important. It seems, let me rephrase that. We're worried about the amount of foot traffic coming out of the Crescent Deck and the amount of potholes. So we determined that street was more important to do this year, and we would do the Heights next year. So the Heights did get had gotten postponed till next year. Because nothing got done this year, and we get a new capital budget in January, we should be able to add the heights for next year and have both of those things done. Does that make sense?
Yes, and that would include the issue that we've discussed of a barrier, which is an important safety feature. Okay.
So what Councilor D'Amato is referring to, so everybody knows at home, we've been having an issue with people coming off of Carlisle, is that?
Carlisle.
Yes, Carlisle, jumping the curb and coming into the parking lot that way, which creates a safety issue with people that are walking and not paying attention because you don't expect a car to come from that direction. So I spoke with Dr. Johnson about possibly planting some pine trees along the way. I've also got, I'm waiting for a quote also to put a wood barrier like we have in Upper Montclair, the old Upper Montclair Plaza, which is the old Charlie, everybody refers to the old Charlie Brown lot. We're putting a wood barrier across that way as well. So I'm waiting to see, it's basically a wooden guardrail as opposed to babies into the trees. I didn't want to put a metal guardrail there because it looks too industrial type of thing, so.
Great. And then on the revenue side of the utility, are we looking at any changes to the revenue model in 2026?
We're looking at possibly raising some of the meter rates. They haven't been touched since 2018. So the rates have stayed the same, have stayed neutral at both the parking decks and at the parking meters. So that it is something that we are looking to change.
Is the feeling that a good first step is to harmonize, to not have meters cost less than lots, correct?
That is correct, yes. The meters should cost more than the lots
That's
because you want that turnaround at the meters.
That's right.
It's important that the businesses know that, we're not trying to get them and to trying to run them out of business. What we're trying to do is get people to go park in the decks and not park in the meters, single-space meters, and not leave their cars there all day long and feed the meter, which is a huge problem in this town, the feeding of the meters, which with the pay stations would also resolve that as well.
And why is that a problem?
Because it forces people to just, there's people drive around looking for parking spots, but yet nobody's moving because those people are parked there all day long. So it wastes everybody's time, and it causes obviously a lot more, carbon
Congestion.
emissions, congestion, you name it.
And do we know the budgetary implications on the revenue side if we were to harmonize to do that more quickly? $100,000, 50, something like that? Do we know? Do we have any idea?
By our calculations, if we were to raise the rates, what we're thinking of raising, it would definitely bring in at least another $100,000 to $150,000 more in revenue into the town.
Thanks.
For the township budget, yes.
Thanks. Great work.
All right. Manny, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Next up. Oh.
Want to jump the queue since he's here?
Yes, yes. No, I sat and then I saw that open. I was like, I guess they're gonna be right on schedule. Sorry. Okay. All right, so here is our current needs for, oh, I'm sorry, for parking utility, for recreation and cultural affairs. So, as you can see, there is not a lot of movement either way, but there is. So, starting with our full-time salaries in our department. So we were a department of 5. We are now a department of 4 full-time employees because we unfortunately got caught up with the hiring freeze. So we had a position that became vacant in September, which is our activities coordinator and aquatics coordinator, which we have not filled yet. We have filled the activities role with a part-timer right now. Gets to be a little difficult sometimes. Part-time people usually want to have the opportunity to come on full-time. So we're lucky enough that the woman who has taken the spot was with us this summer. She has expressed interest in staying with us and staying on full-time. So I know that she's willing to do it, but I don't know for how long. The rest of our part-time employees are done as based with our activities. So right now, we are in the midst of having approximately 12 winter activities happening. So all of our activities happen off-site. We always need our site managers there. It's getting more and more difficult for us to get volunteers to come in to coach. No one seems to have the time, nor do they have the want or the need to do so. We wait till the 11th hour, honestly, before we make that coaching position a paid position, because it's really not in our budget that we kind of look forward to doing that. You know, it's based on, you know, what their equipment needs are. But in order to not cancel a program or an activity, we will bring on a paid coach for the team in order to have it. That seems to be happening more and more. Garland can attest to that as well. Gone are the days I thought it would start being a little better because people were working remotely, but it doesn't seem to be. So sadly enough, that's kind of the turn of events, you know, for things for us moving forward. I will tell you, however, recreation does have a lot of programming and activities, which we do bring in a revenue. So in 2024, we brought in $473,000. 2025, we're about at the same rate. We have not raised our rate in a long time. So people are using our activities, they're using our programs. We are a very vital part of the township for things that we do. Let's see. The other thing we have to bear in mind is that a lot of our costs are going up. Our recreational equipment, whether it be uniforms, whether it be equipment, really we're seeing a huge increase. I believe, what was the latest thing we got on, like a tariff or something? They were, you know, telling us that we'd be affected by, you know, what was happening in the government. So there's really kind of not an easy way to plan for that. So gone are the days where we could get a $5 t-shirt for, you know, our program. It's just not happening anymore. The costs have really risen on the things that we need for our sports and recreational programs. Same thing with this summer with our camps. Our day camp does take a trip once a week. We kind of stay as local as we can, but we noticed that bus fares have gone up, the price of gas, that kind of stuff. So what used to be, and we operate on still our income coming in on a program that, say for basketball, we charge $100. If you break it down per participant of what we're kind of spending, it's really over that. Yes, I know we're not in the business to make money. We like to keep ourselves afloat, but that's sometimes what we're kind of up against with it. I also feel that especially with the one full-time position that we're down, we're really, really operating at a deficit right now. We really are. I don't want to see that position left open, especially going into the spring and summer, because that is, that is our Super Bowl season, and we will really be stretched to the limits. If, I just think it'll be really hard to bring in part-timers that are going to actually be very responsible and do the job that a full-timer would do. So that is it. That's it. Anything else? You want to add anything?
Are there any questions?
Yes, please. Can you just tell me a little bit more, please, about the activities coordinator and the aquatics that you said you're
Okay.
down? I received that, but if you could just let me know a little bit more about the responsibilities of that person, such that you feel that they really need to be here as a
so it's kind
full-time
of
position.
it's a dual position. So primarily during the summer months, that person oversees the 3 municipal swimming pools. Along with that title, they have to have certain certifications, as do I, and our maintenance person by law, by state law, that you have to possess. Luckily, right now, the individual who is filling the part-time position, she went out on her own and got certified in one of the needs for it, which we're very fortunate. People don't usually want to do that. So it's not someone that we can, say, okay, you can fill this spot. With that, also, the aquatics coordinator oversees 3 swimming pools with a staff of approximately 75 to 80 part-time managers at the pools and that kind of stuff. So we don't usually use that aquatics person to do other activities during the summer months because they're really pushed to the limit. It's a 7-day-a-week operation going on. When pools close and stuff for the season, then that position becomes our activity coordinator, helping with fall programming, winter programming, and then once again starting into the spring season of planning for the pools for it. So you'll see them wear, we all wear a lot of different hats in the department.
Actually, I would just ask if anything has changed in the department because of the change in how Clary has been programmed, and that is partly an opportunity to just mention that Clary Anderson is open, and that we should all be
Yes, they have
patronizing
their
it.
grand opening Saturday, right? Well, they're open, but something special Saturday. No, because Clary Anderson, being that it was under
That's right.
privatization, I did oversee them as far as they would report to me as scheduling and that kind of stuff. If there was any issues, and that would still be the way that it would be, that they notify us of going on. So the way that it stands doesn't really help us in recreation gain a person who was kind of dedicated to them, because it's not.
Okay.
It's not. So I wish it was, but no.
Michelle, the one thing I want to add is that Parks and Rec does not bring in all that it can bring in, because you don't turn anyone away.
We never do.
We
No.
never turn anyone away. If they can't, for some reason, pay whatever the fee that you and Garland make accommodations.
We, and as I said, we would
People should-
never.
People should know that.
Yes, we operate the way that the Board of Education does under the reduced and free lunch program. So if they qualify for free or reduced lunch in our school system, all they have to do is bring in a letter. We don't want to see tax returns, anything. If there's people without children or seniors that really do need that, we work along with them. Okay, we have even put people on payment plans because they couldn't afford to do something. We've reached out in the community, Garland and I, if there's somebody who truly can't afford something, and see if we can get a sponsor for them, type thing. So no child or family is ever turned away in recreation, ever.
So Michelle, what are the loss leaders in terms of recreation? What programs or sports or activities have the largest expense and maybe the fewest number of participants?
I I believe we talked about this at one time. So we constantly evaluate our programs. We will not run something if it only has 4 participants in it, just to say that we've had it for 20 years. Because recreation is kind of like life, constantly evolving. What suddenly used to be popular isn't anymore. Kids tend to go into the self sports where they can self excel. There was a lull for a while with numbers dropping in our baseball and softball, but we've seen those start coming back up. Football numbers, where they used to be really high, have started to wane a little bit. I believe that's just something across the country because of the head injuries and the kind of like the stigma that goes along with it. But then you'll see that come back up. Soccer is huge, huge, huge. We never say we're going to do something because we've done it for a long time, because we always want to kind of create something new or do something in the community that we think will benefit. We constantly talk with the athletic director from our high school, because in the end, that's where we want our kids especially in our sports programs, to end up. It's at the high school level. We don't want children moving out of town simply because they're not, or going elsewhere because we don't offer anything. So they are always extremely grateful, the coaching staffs, that we, especially when we get into those years right before high school, that we do things a little bit more competitively and get them ready. And then when they get to the high school, they're ready to play. Right now, I know the frustration falls at the football level, especially at the high school. They're starting to feel a little bit. So once again, high school coaching staff has been wonderful, constantly talking to Garland, what can we do? How can we engage the kids? How can we keep them going? Same thing, our cheerleaders, that program was so minimal when it first started out, and it's huge. They keep winning all these competitions. So once again, with those sports, though, involve the cost, especially for football. You have the equipment. We don't ask any of our sports that they have to buy their own equipment, because it's turned back into us. It's ours to keep everything affordable. If you had to do that, probably a child would be paying $400 or $500 to play football, and that, in a lot of areas is just not what we could do. So, we have it gets turned in. Once again, under state laws, we have to have things reconditioned the right way. You just did the helmets not too long ago. It's not a matter of us disinfecting them ourselves. They have to be reconditioned and that kind of stuff. So, we're kind of caught up in 2025 rates of what things cost nowadays, but what we're charging is kind of still, 1990. But it's, we try to make it work.
Would there be any benefits in terms of resources for our football program and the Cobras program to maybe combine? I understand you said your numbers are waning a little bit, so maybe rather than to try to keep that here, is there anything, can you think of any benefits to us trying to combine?
Yes, we've spoken many, many times. We do not want children to be playing elsewhere. We don't want them going elsewhere. Our football program is 98% Montclair children. There's a small percentage, right, that either don't live in town, but a parent lives in town and they want it to play that way. So yes, this discussion has been had. However, Cobra football allows out of town to be in their program. So it's kind of hard to push that together, what they will do with their out of town. But I know it would be great to have one football program, especially, there's been a couple times, where we've kind of held our breath, right, Garland, on fielding a team on a Sunday, because we didn't think we'd have enough kids, because they always have to do 2 and 3 sports in a season. But yeah, absolutely. I know Garland's spoken with Will a few times. We're not resistant to it at all.
But that might be a good move, even in terms of finances, if you can come to some agreement, like in terms of Montclair versus others. But okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Michelle, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you both.
Okay.
Next up.
Hello, how's it going? How you doing? Going up here. Oop. Yeah. Okay. So hello, everybody. For our budget, luckily this year I presented, you'll see I have for like salaries and wages.
Could you introduce yourself? I'm sorry.
I'm not used to these. I'm Keith Costello with the acting director, or not acting director, I'm the assistant health officer for the Montclair Health Department, and I'm just presenting our budget today. So yes, so you said you wanted a normal, a frozen, and a lean budget for this year. So since we didn't, for salaries and wages, we didn't need anything extra. We don't want to ask for anything. So you know how the budget is this year. So I kept our normal, our frozen. That's why they were the same, and then I did a lean based off of that. The lean, for salaries and wages drops about $82,000 from what we have. Operating expenses, I was able to do, a normal, which again, we didn't want to really ask for anything. We were actually pretty good operating budget wise, so we put stuff in there. But honestly, we were looking to keep it lean. We can definitely do the frozen for this year, and if we had to go lean, we could do that as well. So that went from dropped about another like $40,000 off our operating expenses. A big part of that was mesh costs. We didn't do the whole thing, but the township team.
So for the people at home who don't know, what is mesh?
The mesh is for our Code Blue, like they're doing our Code Blue. The township was giving them about $50,000.
And what is Code Blue?
Code Blue is when for homeless individuals, when it goes below 32 degrees, the county, if you have more than 10 individuals in your township that need help, you have to have a Code Blue program. And so they provide places for them to go at night so they don't have to be outside and freezing. But as far as I last checked, I think that our funding is going to be cut. I'm not sure fully, so we just cut a little bit off the top, not the whole thing, just in case they change. They're going to provide some funding on top of what if they go with the county also provides funds, but that's still up in the air as well. For capital, we're pretty lucky. We don't have any capital projects that we have this year, so we're coming up. So we again, we know the way the budgets are, so we just didn't request any capital. We didn't have any big issues. Luckily, some of the bigger expensive equipment that we get on grants. Like for instance, we have 2 lead machines. We have a childhood lead program. So to just one machine that we shoot all the painted surfaces in the home, and then we have a second machine that does consumer products, makeup, toys, anything, spices, anything else. So it's 2 separate machines. They're about $25,000 each. The one we use for the home actually uses a radioactive source. So on top of that, it usually requires, we just had it done, just got it back today, about a $6,800 resourcing fee. Again, so through our grants, we have never paid, we usually cover the cost of the machine, the resourcing, sampling, anything that has to do with our childhood lead program as far as our inspections go, we cover the cost. We go out there and do like lead wipe samples in the home, for the lab's covered, the wipes are covered that way. Even staffing, that kind of stuff. So even with our staffing cut, what we didn't include in here is that we have grants currently that are covering, we offset, not for new staffing, we offset existing employee salaries and wages. On our lead grant alone, we have about $145,000 for that we're offsetting just in that one grant. Plus, we have interlocal services. I didn't include also, we increased our fees for retail food establishments, which are all of our restaurants, our temporary events. We did, we have the fees for that went up as well to try to bring in more revenue for the township. And so that's it. That's, our budget.
So for residents at home who may not know, what are the kinds of activities that the Department of Health and Human Services provides?
So we provide, we have our environmental division. So we do as our restaurant inspections. Then we also have our complaints. You're talking, rodents, rodent collections, insect infestations. People complain about restaurants and restaurant complaints. We have our public health nursing, which they do you know, as the mayor knows, they do like the Mayor's Wellness Challenge, but they're all about, you know, vaccines. They're doing for either flu or, you know, our nurses were huge when, you know, COVID-19 at the time we provided to the township. We used to go to the homes of people that were homebound, and we went to, you know, we were one of the few people that went to the houses and gave them their vaccinations there because they couldn't leave. They do childhood vaccination audits for all the schools, you know, public or private. You know, they're part of our team for the childhood lead program. So there's a lead case manager, which is all, you know, is always the nurses. So they come out and they have a huge interview process with the homeowners. Then we have environmental that comes out, and we have the machine, and we're the ones that shoot the entire interior of the home. We're looking for lead coated surfaces. So they're part of that program. They do the mayor's wellness, you know, helping her. We have a lot of issues right now with people that almost kind of fall through the cracks that we try to connect the services. They might not be homeless, but they are people that usually are hoarders. They're stuck in their home. They wouldn't have any family to go to. So we have like a team of people through our senior services department. We have Lisi, who's fantastic, she's our social worker. They go out with a nurse and they try, you can't force, we try to help them and push them towards connections with services the best we can, or trying to find family members that can help them. Because unfortunately, if it's their own home, we can't force them to do what we want or force them to go into a hospital to get help. It's usually a mental health issue that brings them to that point. So they're part of that team as well.
So if somebody suspects that they have lead paint in their home, they're able to, they call the health department, or who do they
No,
call?
the way it works, so there's a state database. So when you have a child at the age of 1 and 2, they're supposed to get their blood tested at the pediatrician's office. They'll do a blood draw. So at those 2 ages, if it comes back above a certain action level that we have, we automatically get it through the same state database. We check ours every day. It's called CDRSS. It's like it's our communicable disease application, but it's now lead is included in that. It used to be a separate database. Now it's included in the same one. So we get automatically notified. Then we notify the parents, whether it's a privately owned home or a rental. That's when we come in, we make an appointment. Our nurses and our environmental team go in there and do our thing. We come out with a whole report, and if it's a rental, the landlord gets a whole, you know, hey, it's almost like it's a notice of violation. They're forced to correct the violations that are found inside the home. If it's a private resident, they still have to do it. It's just, you know, it's their home, so they have to hire a lead abatement contractor, do the work, and the case isn't closed until on our end, or environmental, until all the surfaces are abated. And then for nursing, it's a little more challenging because it has to drop. Doesn't matter, you can abate all the lead in the house, but the action level in the blood has to come below a certain level before the case can be fully closed. And the CDC at that point is 3.5 micrograms per deciliter is the number. And just to give you an idea what that means, when I first started here, it was 20. So over the years, it's dropped 20 to 15 to 10, and now, you know, if you get 2 readings now between a 5 and a 9, it makes that a case, or 1 reading above a 10 or above. So we're getting a lot more of those now. Since they dropped the level, we're getting, unfortunately, Montclair is full of early 1900s homes, so there's tons of lead here, unfortunately, and it keeps us busy.
And our nursing staff provides services for immunization, flu clinics, et cetera. How can you describe that?
Yes. So they do, you know, we do flu clinics. We also provide all vaccinations for children, if they need it in our department. We've had a vaccine for children program, and you can come and get like your Hep A, Hep B, stuff that sometimes college kids come in. Any vaccines that you might need, we can provide. We still, if you want COVID, you want flu, we still provide those when necessary, if needed, if people are interested. Even some of the, some immigrant populations, sometimes they can, we can provide free, it's called a VFC program, where there's, it's like a free vaccine program for people that are uninsured, so people can come to us for that as well.
Can you describe some of the shared service agreements we have with neighboring communities?
Yes, so we just signed our new contract with Cedar Grove. We did a five-year contract with them. That's for a full service, meaning that's for our health officer, that's for nursing, environmental, like complaints, restaurant inspections, nursing, the whole package. And we also have a one-year contract currently with West Caldwell, which we're looking to renew. They seem interested in renewing that for next year as well. That's just for nursing. Because these days it's really hard to find public health nurses. Ever since COVID, all the hospitals they're sucking them all in. So a lot of health departments are having a big problem finding public health nursing. So they couldn't hire. They were trying to hire one for months and they couldn't do it. So they asked us to do a contract and we agreed.
Now, does Montclair do it for free, or do the other towns pay Montclair
No,
to
of
provide these
course,
services?
nothing in this world is for free, and no, it's a mutual benefit, because it brings in revenue for the township, and we're able to do, to do the work for them for, we did a whole, do a budget analysis to make sure that it is that, it works out. But yes, we get compensated, for West Caldwell, and we just, and same thing for Cedar Grove, we just signed it where it's gonna be, every year it's tiered 4.5%. Every year, one for Cedar Grove goes up to account for cost of living into the contract.
Question?
The one thing you can add is that your department is where you would go for marriage certificates, birth certificates,
Yes.
death certificates.
Vital statistics,
Vital statistics.
Scrambled up here, but yes, vital statistics are, Arlene and Megan are amazing. Everybody comes in and, you can get your, she sets you up with your marriage certificate, death certificates, unfortunately, but they can, they come in all the time. Those have to be issued very quickly, so they're always on top of that. And then you come in for, people are always looking for, birth certificates as well, all the new license changes, and for whatever reason they need it.
But if they're born in Mountainside, they don't
do
come
not
to
come
you.
to us. If that's one thing we get
That's
out there,
going rich.
we get 100 calls a day, or people coming in, and we always have to send them away. It's gotten so bad, we actually have little sheets that we give people with the address, the telephone number for Glen Ridge, because there's people coming all the time thinking Mountainside Hospital is Montclair.
Just one thing to add, the numbers, the normal and frozen are from 2025. They don't include Section 8 or the animal shelter.
Correct. This is just, I took those already out. I even, since what's going on with, we have the ordinance with Lisa Johnson, and I also actually, that doesn't include Lisa, because I know she's going to be changing for next year as well. So that's, I account for that as well.
Yes,
there
since
any
you were
questions?
already there, Mr. Scantlebury, between the frozen line and the lean line, what came out to get that number in the lean?
For which one? For
We did salary and wages, right? I'm just trying to find out, what did we take out?
we just did 5%.
Okay, so that wasn't a person or a position.
Wasn't a person or position, we're not sure, because that'd have to be a whole thing with, my director when she comes back from leave.
Okay.
If it hopefully doesn't come to that, I didn't want to, it's just a number for 5%, cut as for the manager. Again, we didn't account for, we're hoping with our grants and stuff, because we can account for, maybe offset that and not have, not need to do that.
Okay. And I'd just like to let the people that are watching at home, I personally can't say enough about the great preventive things that our health department do in the community, not just with the seniors, but with the different activities. Whenever people want to have preventive education types of things, they'll come to the activities in the community and share the information. So I can't really sing the praises enough. Did you want to say anything about our partnership with Montclair State University at all, and what they're doing
sure.
there?
Yeah, so we just started, my director, wasn't me, started a partnership with Montclair State University, and with using our opioid funding. So if anybody doesn't know out there, we get a lot of opioid funding. That right now we have a couple contracts with the MAU, Montclair Ambulance Unit, and also Essex Health and Recovery Center to help with our addiction services. But also, since college kids are the biggest users, potential users of drugs out there, so that we have a partnership. We provided the vending machine as a vending machine that provides free goods like Narcan. We provide fentanyl test strips. So if they were using drugs, you can do fentanyl, and there's another drug called xylazine, which is like a new kid in the block that's coming out of Philadelphia. It's making its way up this way as well, that they're lacing drugs with. So you can dip and you can figure out if they're laced. So if it's in everything now. It doesn't matter if it's marijuana, cocaine, heroin. They're trying to get people addicted as much as possible. But unfortunately, it takes, it's the amount. It's like the pin of a needle that it's an overdose and it can kill somebody. So these strips, so hopefully we're going to provide these to these kids, and they can dip in and see if these things are if they're tainted, the drugs that you're using. Hopefully use drugs at all, but you know how college kids are. And also a new one that we're adding on there it just came out is we have these things for it could be for anybody, but you can test your drink if you're being drugged. So it's a pen, and you can actually just dip it right in the drink. So the kids, if they're at a party and you put your drink down or whatever, you think it's some kind of shady situation, you think something might have happened, you could dip and it tests for 3 different drugs like rohypnol. Pretty much everybody knows that's a date rape drug, so they can test for those now. So with that opioid money, not township funds, we're helping them. And going forward, they'll provide the stuff inside, but for now, we're trying to get them started. It's almost coming to fruition.
Thank you so much.
All right, you're welcome.
Any other questions? Well, thank you very
All right.
much.
Well, thank you.
Next up. We'll take a 5-minute break. when we hear from Rick. Okay. If you could introduce yourself for the
Okay.
record.
Good afternoon. I'm Janice Talley, the Director of Planning and Community Development here in Montclair Township. Do you want me to just present my numbers or answer questions?
We could, if, this is informal, so
Okay.
if you don't mind us asking questions along the way, and if you could describe what your department does, and then
Okay.
the three scenarios, right? The normal would be your normal operating functions. Frozen is the total not to exceed this year's current operating budget, and then the lean is a 5% reduction from this year's budget.
Right, sure. So my department handles matters relating to land development and land use in Montclair. That includes planning, it includes zoning, it includes historic preservation. We work very closely with the Environmental Commission. Obviously, I work very closely with council members on these various initiatives. The other half of what we do has to do with housing and community development. So we work very closely on the township's housing initiatives to create affordable housing within the township and manage it. Those that we do have, manage the affordable housing units. We also run the community development program. We get approximately $300,000 a year in community development funds from the county, and we oversee the planning for how those funds should be spent, and working with the various organizations and ensuring that the projects are completed. So we do have also a grant-funded position, an economic development coordinator, who works as the liaison with the small businesses in Montclair Township and works with me and my department on economic development initiatives. And I think that's it for right now. This year coming up, we will have another part-time position created by, again, a grant-funded position to focus on housing initiatives. Housing, of course, is an incredibly complex and important issue in New Jersey. Maintaining affordable housing and creating affordable housing is a somewhat time-intensive process, and the state was generous enough to give us funding to hire a staff person to help us on our various affordable housing initiatives. And that increase is not reflected in the my budget here, again, because it's grant funded. So if you look at my numbers on my slide, normal, I assumed for the salary and wages, I assumed a general increase because I know the costs for salary and wages are going to increase just because of our increased expenses for various, for insurance, and for other step increases for existing staff. So that's why normal is $452,000 for salary and wages. It's not increasing our staff. It's basically allocating those increases based on my evaluation. Frozen is keeping what it is right now. And then lean, I kept it as it is right now in terms of salary and wages because I think we can cut other items from our budget and keep our all-important staff who are really important to making sure things are running well and in a time-efficient manner in Montclair. So you'll notice the biggest difference is in our operating expenses. So under normal, I did not change the operating expenses from the frozen aspect. That's $293,000. In last year's budget, we put in $100,000 to do a new master plan. Well, we were so busy this year with doing a housing element and fair share plan that was prepared in-house by staff time, as well as working on a new, it's called Environmental and Sustainability Amendment to the master plan. It has to do with a statutorily required evaluation of climate change-related hazard vulnerability assessments. We got a grant to amend our master plan to enhance that section of it. And it's actually taken quite a bit of time on the part of our staff to evaluate it. I believe this amendment's close to 200 pages. Just to digest that amount of information and massage it so it fits in with Montclair takes staff time, but also board time, from the planning board who must review it and assess it and feel comfortable with approving it, and getting the input from the Environmental Commission and others who are interested in environmental matters has taken a lot of our time. So those two amendments to the master plan, which are critically important, and I didn't mention that this environmental and sustainability amendment, if we do amend our master plan to include that, that comes tied with future funding for stormwater improvements in the township. So these are very critical components to the master plan that we are updating this year. As you know, we did adopt the housing element. The continued public hearing on the environmental and sustainability element is scheduled for December 15th. So I hope that we will get that adopted by this year as well. So needless to say, we did not tap into that $100,000 in our budget to redo the master plan. The idea was when the new council came in, they wanted to do a new land use plan. I said that would cost at least $200,000. But we were not in a position this year to focus on that. So I kept that $100,000 in my budget for the projected and the frozen aspects of my budget. On the lien, I reduced it significantly because honestly, this year coming up in 2026, we are going to be focusing on our master plan reexamination report, not necessarily a wholesale revision to the master plan. A master plan reexamination report is a statutorily required evaluation of your land use documents by the planning board. That's it.
May I interrupt for a second? Statutorily, it should be updated, what, every 5 years, 10 years, the master plans?
There is no requirement. The requirement is every 10 years you evaluate it.
You evaluate it
You don't
every
have
10
to
years.
change it.
Okay.
Okay, all you have to do statutorily is evaluate it. So our last evaluation was done in 2016, December of 2016. We have since amended many times our master plan, but we haven't done, and we've worked on our master plan reexamination report, but we haven't completed that process, and that is a function of the planning board to evaluate what's going on in the town and identify changes that are needed. Quite honestly, they've been doing that anyway. Most towns do not amend their master plan multiple times. Our land use plan was adopted in 2015. It's been amended probably 5 times since then, which is not the case for most municipalities. So I do feel that the board is pretty much on top of things. We are going to do this year an in-depth analysis of planning issues. I don't know if there's going to be public outreach as part of that. I have to work with the planning board on how they want to approach it. But we will get that completed this year. And I do know, based on what we did in the past, it's a very robust discussion. But in the end, I don't think we're ready to do a new master plan until we've completed this evaluation to identify exactly what changes are needed. And I've said before, I think we really need to look at our parking ratios, look at parking, how people are parking in Montclair, how they're using our curbs and loading. Let's take a look at what's going on there before we do a in-depth analysis of our land use policies. We've also talked about looking at missing middle housing. That will require, I think, a fairly intense evaluation. And I think those recommendations will come out of our master plan reexamination report. So I think doing an in-depth, what I did in my budget is I set $25,000 for support for professional services in support of these master plan initiatives. Perhaps we'll need to do some special studies to support the master plan reexamination report to give us more substantive basis for making recommendations. I did keep in my budget $50,000 for redevelopment work. I do anticipate us doing a redevelopment plan this year, and we will need to hire a professional, a firm, to do that. So Right, a limit, taking out the $100,000 for the the new master plan, and basically reducing that line item by $75,000. I've made up that reduction for a lean proposal. Everything else pretty much stayed the same. There were some minor increases in professional services because unanticipated costs typically related with lawsuits. We just need to provide additional funding for that, for the various boards. And capital projects. I put $200,000 in under normal. That was because of anticipated contributions to some of our capital projects. Number one is the bike lane on Glen Ridge Avenue. Some of the costs that we have to pay for are moving utility poles, because the $1 million grant we got from the federal government won't pay for relocating utility poles. And quite often there's some capital costs associated with our CDBG projects. So I put $200,000 in for that under the capital projects under normal. Frozen, if we keep it where it is right now, because we did not spend a lot of money on capital projects this year, or kept that at $50,000. And if it's a lean year, we just bring that down to zero. So that's my proposal.
Are there any questions?
I just have a quick question, Janice. So the attorney and the engineer for the planning board, is that in here or that's somewhere else?
No, they're in here. I have a line item for the planning board called professional services,
Mm-hmm.
and that has basically remained the same.
Okay.
That's about $70,000 a year.
Okay, I just, and you may not have had an opportunity. Have you noticed any difference in terms of what we're spending for an engineer, not having one in-house, like I know you were here when we had Kim as well? Have you noticed any difference in terms of what we're spending, having, an outside
Right.
person?
It hasn't affected me at all, because my boards, we always have an outside engineer.
Okay.
Years ago, prior to my even being here, the land use boards have always had their own board engineer, separate
Okay.
from the township engineer, reviewing site plan applications. It just so happened, and when we had a planning board engineer who worked with both boards, who came January 2 years ago, said, "Oh, Montclair, we can no longer provide engineering services to you."
Okay,
I don't know,
okay.
and we were in a very difficult position because we didn't have a board engineer. I had a proposal from Neglia, and Neglia said, "Montclair Township, we can do this for you." So that's when we entered into a contract with Montclair. With Neglia. They're very familiar with it. Yeah. They've actually been I have never had to chase Neglia for a report. They are thorough reports, they're on-time reports. So from that perspective, they're doing what we asked for them.
No, and I've had a wonderful relationship as well. I'm just trying to get a sense of, the benefits of having somebody in-house for the township.
We've never, even if we did get an in-house board engineer, an in-house town engineer, the
Yeah.
planning boards, we would still have
Still have that.
a consultant do our work.
Okay, good.
Because the majority of the work that's done for my boards is done through escrow payments
Okay.
that applicants pay. So that's why it's very easy to set up a consultant to do that work. They're being paid out of escrow accounts that are set up for this work that's associated with these applications,
Okay.
rather than burden an in-house engineer with application-driven expenses.
Good. No, thank you so much.
Okay? Any questions?
No. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Thank you for letting me get this done today.
So that concludes today's public hearing. We're starting tomorrow at 1 p.m. Thank you.